What are your thoughts on a prenup? Biggest challenges between you and your spouse being a busy entrepreneur. How do you maintain a relationship, family life, and run so many businesses and YouTube? What's up, guys? You caught us on another episode of Ask Ryan. Today's episode, we are answering all questions related to relationships and business. Now, most people don't ever want to talk about this stuff, but in this video, we are going to break that stigma, and I'm going to show you what it's really like behind the scenes being an entrepreneur while also trying to be a husband and a father. How do you and your wife approach finances? Do you keep them separate or merged? Well, my wife and I got married pretty early. She had just turned 21, I was 24, and we were both broke, so it didn't really matter if we were separate or merged. We didn't have money either way. So we started out merged right from the get-go, but we would have did that even if we had money. For us, it's all about trust. We never had a reason to try and hide what each other was spending. And honestly, when I hear people have separate bank accounts, I think it's kind of weird because it kind of just shows a lack of trust. But I will say, there is one scenario where I think it makes sense. That would be as if one spouse has a problem with spending or gambling or something like that. And, it's good for the family to separate them to kind of prevent them from, messing things up. But other than that, if you guys are both good with spending and discipline, then I don't really know why you would have separate bank accounts personally. Is it a good idea to bring family and friends into your real estate business ventures? Well, regardless of if it's real estate or any other venture, I've had a lot of success bringing in my friends and family. In fact, many of my top people are my family members or our friends who, we were friends way before we became business partners. So I think it's a great idea, but here's the deal. Even as I hire friends today into my businesses, I let them know from the beginning of expectations. Like, look, just because you're my friend does not mean that you're getting a free pass or I'm gonna treat you any differently than my other employees. Like, for me, I treat all my organizations like a sports team. Like, the best players are gonna play. And if you're not getting it done as a player, you're affecting the rest of the team, and it's not fair to them just because you're my friend. So if you don't get your job done, you don't do what you're supposed to do, then you're out. Like, we're getting rid of you. So they know that going into it, being crystal clear that these are the expectations. So I think as long as you do that, things are gonna be much better for everyone involved because there's gonna be clear standards for what they need to do. You also need to make it clear on your expectations for performance, whether it's how many deals they're getting, whether it's how many calls they're making. And that way, if there is an issue, it's not like you're just firing them and they didn't know what they were supposed to do. There are clear expectations and they, in a sense, fire themselves because they didn't hit them. So I think you just gotta be clear. You gotta let them know there's not gonna be favoritism, and it should be good as long as they're able to hit those things. How do you maintain a relationship and family life and run so many businesses and YouTube? Well, for me, it just goes back to scheduling. I schedule my family into my life, I schedule my businesses into my life, and I schedule my own time away from all those things into my life. I make sure I'm taking care of my health. I make sure I'm taking care of my relationship with God. It's literally what we teach in The Wealthy Way. So if you want to learn more about how I do that, definitely go to wealthyway.com. You can go get the course for free. You can go get my planner for free. You can go join our Discord community for free. Literally, it's all free with no upsells. And the course is like 4 hours, so it's gonna explain it way more in depth on how I schedule my day versus this YouTube video. So go check it out. How would you deal with your girlfriend not being as driven as you? Would you end it or put up with it? Honestly, my wife isn't a super driven person like me. I think it's actually good to have that counterbalance. If we were both driven like crazy, I think we'd be down each other's throats all the time, and there just really wouldn't be a good balance. For me, as somebody who's driven and willing to always just jump to the next thing and keep on pushing forward, she really does help me take a step back and chill and just kind of see what's in front of me and just enjoy life. I think a lot of driven people, they don't really ever enjoy the present because they're so focused on whatever's next in the future. So to that point, your girlfriend might be a better fit for you than finding someone who's way more driven just like you are. What do you do when your husband wants to play safe and is afraid to take action? So I assume that by this question, your husband at least wants to do the business or invest in real estate or whatever the case is, right? And, whatever, they have some limiting belief or fear that is holding him back. I would just say as a wife, all you can do is encourage him, do whatever it takes to get his confidence level up, get him in coaching, get him to events where other people are doing it. Just typically for most people, they don't succeed or start or take action because they don't really have anyone else encouraging them. So I would just say, start with yourself and encouraging him, and then also do what you can to get him in environments where other people are doing it and he's being encouraged. But the other scenario is if he is doing all those things and he's not getting it done, then you got to ask yourself if you want to be the one to do it. Maybe you're going to be the one who's able to do it and he can encourage you. So either way, I don't know what your guys' dynamic looks like. I know for my wife and I, she encourages me. I go out there and get after it. I don't expect her to go get after it too. And I actually prefer it this way. We have way more success when my wife encourages me and I'm out there getting after it versus if we were both trying to have success starting businesses and running different things. We'd never really see each other. It'd be hard to encourage one another. So I actually like this scenario better. So maybe figure out who's supposed to be the one getting after it and who's the one supposed to be encouraging. When do you cut people out that aren't growing with you? This is a good question and a tough one to answer. I think there are two scenarios here. The first is actually cutting people off that, are a hindrance to your life. If you got people that are being negative and you got people that are holding you back, telling you can't do things, I would just cut those people out immediately because they're not going to help you reach your goals and they're really holding you back from achieving anything you want to do. So those people you got to cut out, and it may not mean cutting them out like completely, like you don't ever want to talk to them again. It just may be like, hey, I'm not hanging out with you anymore. I got things I'm trying to accomplish. We're still friends, we're still family, but you're not helping me reach my goals and I don't want to be stuck here with you. So, just having that conversation. But the second scenario is kind of what's happened to me where you kind of just grow apart naturally. I still have a ton of friends who, I like seeing and hanging out with. But at the end of the day, we were closer friends when we were at a different point of our lives and we had very common interest at that point. Well, years later, we have different interests. Obviously, I'm doing way different stuff than what I was doing 5 years ago. And they probably are too. And so at the end of the day, you're gonna usually spend your time with people who are doing things that you are doing at this current point. So there's nothing wrong with spending less time with somebody because you guys just have kind of grown apart in different ways. And it doesn't mean that you dislike that person or you're not friends or you're not family. It's just, it's gonna naturally happen over time as you evolve. Biggest challenges between you and your spouse being a busy entrepreneur. Well, I think the biggest challenge for any married couple is getting actual one-on-one time together that's not related to your business, it's not related to your kids or anything else, but you two just focusing on one another, very similar to how you guys focused on each other while you were dating. I think life as, a content creator and as a business owner is obviously very busy. There's so many moving pieces going on. And then when I get home, I've got 2 kids, we're hanging out, we're having fun, and my wife and I are focused on, taking care of the kids, making sure these kids can, get everything that they need. They're very needy when they're only 3 and 1.5. But once you do all of that, most married couples are pretty tired from those things. And so when it comes time to their relationship, after all of that is taken care of, most neglect it because they're just tired and they're like, I need me time, I need to rest, I need to go play my video games, I gotta go do whatever, right? So our biggest challenge is making sure that we schedule in time just for us. And if that's a date night, if that's a vacation, if that is whatever we want it to be, we got to make sure that we're scheduling it in. Now, I know a lot of people will say, well, I have trouble getting babysitters. I have trouble doing XYZ. Well, all of those things can be hired. Okay, you can get a babysitter if you look hard enough. I ain't saying it's easy, but you can make it happen. You can go hire people for your business. Once again, not saying it's easy. They're really the same thing. They're both hires. But you're gonna have to rely on other people, friends, family, new people, to create that time so that you can go have this time over here to really go pour into your relationship. Did you get married before you created wealth or after you had wealth? So as I said earlier, we were, really young and really poor when we got married. In fact, we barely had enough to pay for our wedding. So I'm happy that we got married that way. We've created everything we have together. I would not have been able to do it without my wife. And she's the one behind the scenes really holding it down that allows me to do all the stuff that you guys see me do. My wife says my mind never stops. I see it as a positive, her as a negative. Thoughts? My mind never stops either. And my wife knows that as well. So even though I say I don't work, all these certain times, my mind is still like always moving 24/7. I dream about, my next idea all the time. So to that end, I don't think that your mind not stopping is a bad thing. And I think my wife has learned to like my mind not stopping because it's led to a ton of good ideas that have panned out pretty well. So right now, if your mind is always moving and it's producing good fruit, then I think it's a good thing. But if your mind's always moving and you don't do anything with those thoughts and it's all just, a waste, then it's a bad thing. So figure out what you're doing with those thoughts and turn them into actions. How was your work-life balance during your startup phase of your business? People ask me this all the time. They think that when I was starting out flipping couches or doing whatever, like I was working all these different hours versus what I do now where I'm way more busy and have way more things and responsibilities going on. The reality is I've never really worked a ton of hours, even in the startup phase. When I was flipping couches, I was working like 4 hours a day and I was super hyped about it. When I first started flipping houses, I really wasn't working that often. In fact, I spent a lot of my time just playing baseball, which I didn't really consider work. It was more fun to me. But nothing has really changed in the last 7-8 years since I started getting into business. I think people have the misconception that you have to work so much at some point, whether it's the startup phase or whether it's the scaling phase. I don't think you have to work that much if you do it the right way. And that's really what I try to teach people in the Wealth Builder Academy. So go check it out if you haven't. Plan to involve kids in your businesses. Honestly, my kids are so young, I don't know what they're gonna do, nor am I gonna push them towards business or sports or anything. I've had a lot of people, back when I played baseball, they're like, is your son gonna play baseball? Are you gonna push him to do all these things? I'm like, no. I don't care if he plays baseball or not. I don't care if any of them gets in my business or not. It's totally up to them. I want them to live whatever life they wanna live, whatever their skills are. I wanna support them in honing those skills. And if it fits into what I'm doing or what I used to do, cool. But if not, I just want them to be happy. What are your thoughts on a prenup? Man, this is a good question. I guess I'm lucky that I got married when we were broke because there was nothing to get a prenup over. We had nothing to protect. But even today, as a Christian, I'm not a believer in a prenup. I mean, look, I think you get married for life. That's my belief, and I know things happen and people get divorces and, life is life. But in the end, if you go into your marriage already thinking, man, I don't really maybe trust this person enough, or, I want to protect myself or this or that, I don't know. That's a tough thing. It's kind of like the joint bank account thing. There are people that do it successfully, and there are a lot of great marriages that have prenups, but I think it shows a lack of trust at the end of the day. And I think that you need to make sure that this is the person you want to be with if you're considering a prenup, first and foremost, because you're kind of already thinking about the out with it. So that's kind of my thoughts on it. And look, I get it for those of you who maybe have created wealth and now you're, getting married to somebody who, has been after the fact of creating wealth. But even to me on that point, it just goes back to, what are you valuing more? Like your money or the person that you're marrying? I don't know. If I'm valuing the person I'm marrying, I'm not so concerned about the money. I'm going all in on this marriage and I'm anticipating with 100% that it's gonna work out. And if it doesn't, then you split the money and it is what it is. It's just money, guys. It's not hard to make back, especially if you were already making money before you got married. I'm sure you can make money if things don't work out. So that's my perception of it. Not a big believer in prenups, but to each their own. But anyways, that's all I got on relationship advice for this episode. Make sure you get all the free tools at wealthyway.com, and I'll catch you on the next video. Peace.